Welcome to today's Georgetown Alumni Lifelong Learning Session hosted by the Georgetown University Alumni Association. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for Dream of Italy, Travel, Transform, and Thrive with Kathy McCabe. I'm Kelly Young, Associate Director of Strategic Engagement and Alumni Relations, and I'll be facilitating today's session. As a quick reminder, this session is being recorded, and the recording will be shared via our follow-up email. You may also use the Q&A section of your Zoom controls to submit your questions throughout the session. Now to our presenter, Kathy McCabe, a School of Foreign Service alumna, class of 1995. Kathy is the founder of Dream of Italy, which encompasses a PBS travel series, podcast, travel service, and the award-winning magazine Dream of Italy, which has been in publication since 2002. Kathy believes that one trip to Italy can change anyone's life. It happened to her when, shortly after her Georgetown graduation, she ventured to southern Italy to discover her ancestral hometown. Kathy is also the author of the forthcoming public television companion book, Dream of Italy, Travel, Transform, and Thrive. For more information, visit dreamofitaly.com. Without any further ado, I'm pleased to turn things over to Kathy McCabe.
Hi, everyone. I'm not sure if I guess I'm on. I can't really see, but welcome. We're here for, I think, a little bit of a break from regular life to take us to Italy, a place that I know that many of you love, and that's why you signed up today. So the interesting bit of my story is that when I was at Georgetown, I went to the School of Foreign Service. My great love was France. So this is a little bit of a surprise. I spent a summer studying in France in the Alps, and then I worked at the American Embassy. I interned for a summer in Paris, and I loved France. I spoke French. That was the foreign language test I had to take. And I always tell this story but I have Italian roots. So I really wanted to take a semester of Italian, but senior year, Italian was 5 days a week, like the introductory class. And it wasn't like I was this huge partier, but I was like, oh gosh, that's a lot. And one of my big regrets in life is I didn't take Italian at Georgetown. But I remember modern foreign governments, if anyone went to SFS. And I remember we studied Italy and their many governments. So I began my career at ABC News. I worked in TV news, covering hard news, politics. I went to work for usatoday.com, and I eventually ended up in their travel section. And my life was changed by one trip because a month after I went to Georgetown, or I graduated from Georgetown, my mother and I decided to take this trip to Italy. And we knew if we were going, we needed to go find her ancestral hometown, which was a town my grandfather had tried to find. So it was his father who came from there. So if you watch it's called the Castelvetere episode of Dream of Italy, my TV show, it'll give you some backstory. I fulfilled my grandfather's dream to find his father's town. And 36 hours later, my grandfather actually died somewhat suddenly. He was 93, though, in the US. So I've always kind of correlated the two things, my great love and being so close to my grandfather, and Italy, and discovering Italy and this town before he left. It really cushioned things for me. So while I was working in journalism, I was always taking my vacations in Italy. And then I realized there were a lot of people like me, that it's not a place people just go to once. They go again and again. And in 2002, I founded a subscription travel newsletter. So 19 years ago, and it has been publishing ever since. And it's now a glossy magazine. It's a membership site. And if you join, you get 6 issues, glossy issues a year. And we have 180 back issues. But then 7 years ago, I had the chance to transform it into a PBS travel series. So we have had 2 seasons and a special called Dream of Italy, the Dream of Italy Tuscan Sun special, with my friend Frances Mays. And now one of the reasons I'm here today is to tell you about our new special, which is Dream of Italy, Travel, Transform, and Thrive. I'll tell you a few things about it before we watch the trailer, and then I'll tell you more. So all these years I've been doing Italy, I knew it, but I don't know if it was at the forefront of my mind that Italy is so much more than a trip. It is transformative. It helps us feel more alive and decide to do new things with our lives. So I gathered a group of famous and not so famous at full and part-time expats to help explore what it is about Italy and how we can step by step learn something from Italy, because this special, it's a pledge special where you can give to PBS. It's also a regular special. And if you've ever watched Pledge, Susie Orman, who does retirement planning, Dr. Amen about the brain, all those pledge specials, they're teaching you something. And so I wanted to teach you how Italy can transform your life. So I think Kelly's going to help us. We're going to play the top of the special. It'll give you an idea of what it's all about. And I'll tell you a little bit more after we watch that. I don't know. There we go. Yay. I love technology.
At home here. I love Italians. I love Italian food. I love Italian people, the culture, the music.
What if I told you that I found a place that holds the secret to a happier, healthier, and more meaningful life? Where? Italy, of course. Italy regularly ranks at the top of the Bloomberg Global Health Index as the healthiest country in the world, with Italians living longer and enjoying a rich quality of life. Today, our guests will share the 11 essential elements of the Italian lifestyle that you can use to transform your life at home or even plan a move to Italy as they did. We will visit Sting and his wife, film producer and director Trudie Styler, on their Tuscan farm and vineyard.
I think it's that soft power that Italy radiates around the world that attracts people here. You know my mind is made up!
Under the Tuscan Sun author Frances Mays at Brahma Sole, the villa she renovated in Cortona.
It's more like time is a river. Time is something that flows and you're in it.
Legendary director Francis Ford Coppola at his boutique hotel in Basilicata, inspired by his ancestors.
So here's a town where if you walk down the street in Bernalda with this beautiful corso, the people will be happy to see you and they'll be interested where you're from and proud of their town. They'll invite you to the house for lunch.
Best-selling financial author David Bach, who is enjoying a radical family sabbatical in Florence.
And what we're learning here to do in Florence is slow down to the speed of life.
Former Hollywood film executive Arlene Antoinette Gibbs in Rome, where she changed careers.
So you get to know your flower truck.
You get to know your flower guy. And retired widow Sally Carasino, who is thriving aging out of place in Italy.
Gave me hope, and I realized that life is so short and that you really, really have to live every moment.
Together, let's take a journey through the essentials of Italian life. The land, food, family, passion, pace of life, art and culture, beauty, community, movement, celebrations, and sense of home. You might be inspired to take a trip to Italy. I know firsthand how just one visit can change your life. After all, it was my first trip to Italy 26 years ago with my mother to discover our ancestral hometown that led me to create the award-winning travel magazine Dream of Italy and this very TV show. Or if you want to move to Italy, stay tuned for how-to tips. Andiamo!
So that is the top of the special. It's called Dream of Italy, Travel, Transform, and Thrive. And it actually it's just started airing yesterday in some markets, but it really ramps up next week. If you come to dreamofitaly.com/TTT, you can put your zip code in and it will show you if your local station is airing it in the next few weeks. So as I mentioned, there are two versions of the special, and that's how I got into doing this whole thing. I was part of a contest for public television to present new ideas for pledge specials. And as I mentioned before, there's so many great things about Italy. Italy usually ranks number 1 or 2 on the Bloomberg Global Health Index as the healthiest country in the world. And a lot of that comes back to access to fresh, affordable food, organic food, community. Italy has a high number of doctors per capita. So there's a lot of things that make it healthier. And I think we all know that when we go, we just feel happier. And so pledge specials, a little bit different than my regular travel series, usually try to teach you something and they make it very sort of bullet pointy. And so I broke down the whole premise to 3 major themes and 11 essential elements. And the thing that really pushed me into doing this special when I did is I had the great opportunity to interview Sting and his wife, Trudie Styler, on their Tuscan estate. So every summer now they produce wine and olive oil that you can buy here in the US. It's from Il Pelagio. And so they wanted to talk about their winemaking. And then every August, they have a little gathering for their anniversary. And it used to just be a few neighbors and Sting would perform. And now it's about 300 people. So that's where you saw a little bit of Roxanne, which comes in at the end. So when I went, everyone asked, well, what's it like to meet Sting? And Trudie, and they're lovely, and their land has such energy, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But what we're talking about, including when I visit with Mr. Coppola, which was in a previous episode, and Francis Mays, what we're always united by is Italy and our passion for Italy and our love for Italy. And I've met so many people through Italy that it just feels like I'm talking to another person who loves it so much. So you saw sort of a preview. We go through the land, food, community, celebrations, pace of life. Like what makes Italian life better? And these are things you don't ever have to go to Italy, or you don't have to go regularly, that you can adapt and use in your regular life, like drinking espresso. It's good for your brain, taking a walk and seeing your neighbors, which is the passeggiata. So we start the show with the land because the big interview is with Sting, and because the big interview is with Sting, yet if you know Italians, you know the land where they come from, where the food and bounty come from, the land means everything to Italians. And even for me, when I went to my ancestral hometown, we were actually Norman invaders. So I guess we weren't there that long, maybe 1,000 years. You know, it all comes back to this piece of dirt. So we're going to take a quick look at the first Italian essential. I think Kelly's going to cue it up. It's the land.
We start our journey with the land. The land gives life and inspiration here in Italy. Italians are strongly connected to the earth, which bestows both beauty and bounty. Cheers, ladies! Tonight, I'm living the dream of Italy here at Il Pelagio. Salute! Cheers. Thank you for having us here.
Pleasure.
It's beautiful. Energy is wonderful here.
It is great.
The air, the air is magical. I feel like I can breathe.
Yeah, everything is related. The wine, the way it's grown, what helps the environment. The insects here, the birds here.
It's magical.
They're treated kindly.
Yeah.
Nature pays you back 100-fold.
Sting and Trudie produce wine and olive oil and grow vegetables on their organic farm and vineyard in the Tuscan countryside. Of all the places in the world, because you could go anywhere and do anything, why Italy for you?
So this is a dream. It's always a dream of mine to live somewhere in the country, to have grass growing around, things growing. And here we have it. So I think we dreamt it up. We realized
You manifested it.
Somehow. I don't know how we did it, but we did.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
What's it like to be a farmer and to grow these vines and have these olive groves?
I always shy away from using the word owner because I don't think we're owners, even though we have our names on an ownership certificate. I would call ourselves stewards, in that we're here to look after it, to protect it, and if we can, to make it better than it was when we found it. So far, we've managed to do that. And I think the local community will back us up in this.
You know, I met so many of the people who work with you here at El Pelagio, and this land is just in their souls.
I think everyone who works here, my impression anyway, is that they love the place. They like coming to work here. They feel part of it. They have a stake in it.
So that's just the beginning of one of the essentials that you can learn about in the special. So as I mentioned, there's two versions. There's a 90-minute pledge special and there's a 60-minute regular special. And the beauty of PBS is it airs and repeats for years. But in the first few weeks of June, you'll be able to watch the special and give to your local public television, and you will get a variety of bonuses, including a membership to Dream of Italy. We have a recipe booklet with recipes from some of the guests like Francis Ford Coppola, Francis Mays, Italian lessons from Rosetta Stone, but most importantly, a companion book. So I've put everything in there about the themes, especially including moving to retiring in Italy. There's also an extended DVD digital download where the most difficult thing about TV is you have to cut so much. So we put another half hour in with a lot more about moving, retiring, making your dream come true. So to go back over what I wanted to do with this special, it's this premise that you can live like an Italian wherever you live and live in a happier, healthier way. You can travel in a more meaningful way. And this special was supposed to come out about 6 months ago. So it's interesting. And then about 6 months ago, I'm like, no, it's going in June. So it's good timing when people are getting ready to travel again, and think about like, how are you going to travel in a more meaningful way? So I give tips, especially meeting the locals and really connecting and living like an Italian. And then I know everyone's really interested in this whole idea of what options do we have, especially people who've gone to Georgetown are very internationally focused. What options do we have if we want to live in Italy? So part of my story you'll remember back is that I have Italian roots. Well, if you have Italian blood, you can look and see if you qualify to claim Italian citizenship, because the idea is that if an Italian anywhere in the world has a child and they are still an Italian citizen, that child is Italian, even if it's 100 years ago. Now, there's some other rules with certain years. And in my case, my mother, I wanted to go through my mother's father, but he naturalized before 1912, even though it was after his son was born. So that eliminated that. Then I wanted to go through my mother's mother. That seems fine. But my mother, my late mother, was actually born before 1948. And there's a rule that if a woman born before 1948 can hold but not pass on citizenship, that's when the latest Constitution was issued. So in this special, I actually detail how I found out I can go to court in Rome and say that it's discriminatory. It's not 100% that the judge will rule in my favor, but it's like a 95%, in which case I will then be able to claim Italian citizenship, be a dual citizen, have the opportunity, if I want to live anywhere in the European Union. So I really suggest anyone who thinks you may have this opportunity to look into it, because you can pass it on to your kids, that you can retire. and go into the national healthcare system there. You can live elsewhere in Europe. And I always say, my dad used to say, do as I say, not as I do. I should have done this years ago. So it's something to look into now. If you come to dreamofitaly.com/TTT, we have a sponsor who does the citizenship and she offers a free consultation. So we explore my own story, but then we explore, how did these other people make their dream of Italy come true? So of course we've got Sting, Francis Ford Coppola, and Frances Mays, who wrote Under the Tuscan Sun, and they're all part-time residents of Italy. So you can live in Italy or be in Italy up to 90 days out of every 180 days. So you can basically do 6 months without needing a visa. So if you want to do part-time, that's easy. But we also meet 3 families who've moved full-time, and how did they do it? First is David Bach. He's a financial author. I first saw him on Oprah years ago. He's written about 10 New York Times bestsellers. He decided he wants to live rich now and not to wait till he's retired. So he took his 2 kids, his wife. They enrolled in an international school in Florence. I interviewed them a couple months after they had moved. They're going on year 3 now. They stayed. And so he did something called a radical family sabbatical. So I think with this advent of digital nomad and working anywhere, now he has a different kind of visa. You have to have a freelancer visa if you're going to go do that, or we work with an attorney, and we interview an attorney in the show, and he's a great resource. He's also in the companion book. That's an option. Arlene Antoinette Gibbs, she was a single woman. She was a film executive in LA. She wanted a different life. She decides to become an interior designer, moves to Italy. Her parents were from St. Martin, so she had an EU passport, and that's how she did it. And she talks a lot about beauty, family, and how she has made a family of her own of friends in Italy. And then I'm telling you, the breakout star is this woman named Sally Carcino. She's there on an elective residency visa. So if you don't have to work, which means, you have income, passive income, or you're retired and you're making money through Social Security, pension, maybe you have investment properties, you can get an elective residency visa, which you're just proving to the Italian government that you're not going to work and you can support yourself. Sally was a widow. Sally decided she wanted to keep living, and she moved to Florence, and she has one of the most active, best lives of anyone I know. And I found her because there was an article called Aging Out of Place in Florence, and she was in it. So we give examples of other people making their dream come true. So, and we say the first step, and I know probably pretty much a lot of people here are pragmatic, is to take a test run, is to go and live there, because you might think you want the villa in Tuscany until you realize it's 20 minutes from town and it costs a heck of a lot to heat. So that's our advice, to go and to try it. So I wanted to share a few more of the guests, and I wanted to share probably one of the number one reasons that we go to Italy. Oh, and I haven't told you, we're giving away memberships at the end of this. We're going to pick 5 attendees to get a 1-year subscription to Dream of Italy. So stay with us till the end. We'll take some questions at the end. But I wanted to show you a little bit about art and culture, and what is it about Italy? Why is all of this there? So Kelly's going to show us our last clip about art and culture and how it keeps us young to take in art and culture.
Art and culture are everywhere in Italy. Italy has one of the richest cultures on earth. This is the birthplace of the Renaissance and home to the majority of the world's artistic treasures.
My mother used to say when we were kids, I remember very vividly, she said, Francis, you're so lucky. You're an American, and America is the greatest country in the world. And my father would say, yes, you're American, but you're also Italian, and the Italians are the greatest culture in the world.
I think it's that soft power that Italy radiates around the world that attracts people here. how does all this stuff come from here? How did the Renaissance come from here? How did these artists come from here? And this music and this wine, this food. There's a reason. I'm not sure I can pinpoint what the reason is, but this is it.
You get the freedom to explore your interest, and I think that comes from the fact that there's so much art. Art seems natural. It doesn't seem like something that is taking place in a museum or in an art school. It's air you breathe is art. And so it feels natural to you to want to connect with that and want to do that yourself.
Not only does viewing art and taking in all kinds of culture, like music, improve our mood and cognitive function, actually participating in artistic pursuits helps us at any age.
To expose our kids to this culture. Like, we have a young son who's really into art. He even said this morning, Dad, I want to be an artist. So, like, what better place to bring him?
So one of the wonderful things about Italy is, and we've mentioned a few, like, you're just surrounded by art, culture, beauty. Beauty is part of everyday life. And there's a funny, we couldn't get this sound bite in the main show, but it's in the extended, where Arlene says to me, straight men will tell you they love your shoes. And it's this gift that Italians have. They notice everything and they appreciate beauty in, a table setting, in your hair color, in an accessory, and just the sunsets. And, life is more on fire in Italy. And so I think that's part of why we're attracted. But part of the show too is that I wanted to teach people to live better. And art and culture, they help your brain age better. We do a whole thing on music. And, so while I'm writing or crafting this pledge special, when you're on PBS, you can't just say things. And I don't do that in my publication either. I always like to be backed up. I come from this hard journalism background. I didn't even have advertising. Now we have very explicit ads that are ads, but for 18 years, I didn't have advertising because I really like to keep things pure. But I looked up all these studies about how we age and how beauty and art and culture help. And I found this fascinating one that Alzheimer's patients, they retain their preferences, their aesthetic preferences for beauty. So if they loved a particular color or a particular look of something, that never goes away. And so there's so many things to learn from what the Italians can teach us, and listening to music and how that stimulates us. And I'm a big believer in this for travel, participating. So if you watch the seasons of my show, I'm always like making a fresco, making a dish, learning, touching, smelling, feeling. So, and new experiences keep our brain young, because it goes back to sort of when our brains were forming, that these new experiences, they actually make time go slower. That's another study I found. So those are interspersed in here. So I wanted to leave enough time today to talk a tiny bit about the current events and travel, take your questions. At the end, I know we're going to do the giveaway of the magazine, but just an update on Italy, or sort of what I know so far. You probably saw the news. You can vaccinate, whether you're vaccinated or not, you can take a COVID tested flight from the US to Italy. It has to be one of the 3 airlines that are offering them right now: Delta, American, or United. So if you wanted to go tomorrow, you could. So Italy is behind us in vaccines. I think they're probably up to 17%. And that's why they haven't fully opened. They may fully open in June. This whole European Green Pass they're trying to work out. I think a lot of people are booking for next year, for 2022. So if you're interested, you should book now. I think the fall will be a great time to go, because I think there'll be more, things will be settled down a little bit more, and it's beautiful. The fall is beautiful. And I have great news. I have never seen airfare. Well, it's been about 10 years since I've seen airfares this cheap. 600 round trip economy from New York, or 2,500, 2,700 for business class. friend of mine used points, 30,000 to go to Italy from the US. So those are some tips. Book now. There's always a little bit of a risk, I suppose, like if you have to rebook and you pay the extra fee, but they're really trying to get us back. They can't wait. I think we're all going to live a little bit more after this. And I think the special, it came out at the right time because we're all deciding, what are we going to do with our lives now? What have we learned? And I hope Italy can help you with that. So I think, Kelly, if we have questions, we could take them now, because I always find the questions fascinating and really add to the discussion. So if you have some, we could take them, or I can tell you more.
Sure, of course. We have had a number of questions, and I know we had some great questions that were pre-submitted. But just a reminder to everyone who's joined us that you can submit your questions via the Q&A icon on your Zoom control panel. So sticking with this,
yeah.
Even have
it up. Well, I'll let you take it though.
Okay.
I can't really read this far.
Sure. And so Deborah has asked, and we know we had a number of questions about the home buying process and market in Italy. But Deborah here today asks, I see stories about buying old Italian properties by auction to rehabilitate. Apparently you have 3 years to complete the project. Do such purchases lead to citizenship? And I think also building on that, some of the questions that we received, what to your knowledge is the home buying market like in Italy? Is it as competitive as it is here in the US in a lot of areas right now? And are there particular places or areas that you would suggest looking at?
Yeah, I was even telling Kelly we should do a whole session on this because it's an extensive topic. So luckily, there's a companion book that you can get when you pledge to PBS, the companion to the special. And in the fall, it'll probably just be also available for sale. But I did all this research and interviewed real estate agents and lawyers. And so here's sort of the long and short of it, but there's always something more to learn. Prices have pretty much stayed the same in Italy. So I interviewed a real estate agent named Sean Carlos. You can find him online. He's American born, but he is a licensed real estate agent in Italy. And the test is not easy, and not everybody is licensed. You can find a lot of home buying property finders. And Sean, of course, he has a vested interest. He's a real estate agent, but he was cautioning me, you really, if you're looking for something, you need somebody to help you who really has that legal authority. So I said to him, Sean, is this the moment to do it? Our price is great. And he's like, they haven't gone down that much. But, you really have to think about, are you going to keep it for a while? Because Italians are not as mobile as we are. They are usually selling because they've inherited a property and they don't need it. So there's not as much buying and selling, flipping in Italy as there is here. It's just different. And I think you should think about, do you really need to buy? I don't think it's the easiest thing. I would definitely say go and rent for a couple of months. Now there are various websites, and they're in the book. I think Idalise does one that there is no MLS, so you can't see everything for sale. And you may see the same house represented by 3 companies at different prices. Now, Sean told me something I did not know. If you contact someone online, an agent selling a house, you have a commitment that if you then buy that house, they're getting a commission, whether you use a real estate agent or not. So that's just a little nugget to be careful of, like who you're reaching out to. And that is not how it is in the United States. The €1 houses, I need to even do more on this because everybody's asking. First of all, do you speak Italian? Are you really into Italy? Are you good with living in a small town in Sicily or southern Italy? Now, my relatives, my family is from southern Italy, from Castelvettere. Maybe I'd want a house there because I have those connections. But you have to think, is there enough there for you to do? Are there other expats if you want that kind of thing? And is it really the bargain it seems to be? Because some of these renovations could cost you 100,000 euros. We're talking heating, old systems. Is there Wi-Fi? Is there a fiber optic network coming? Tuscany's really good at that in the South, and I love the South, so don't get me wrong, not so much. So there's a lot to think about. And I think if you're really seasoned or have ancestors, relatives, it might be something to do, but you could buy a renovated house for 70,000, 60,000. So I think you have to weigh these things out. I could go on and on. That's an overview. I love Tuscany, but that's like the most expensive place. So you can get great deals if you're further afield. So we can talk more, but that's sort of my overview.
Fascinating. And it does sound like we're going to have to do another session down the road on home.
It's really, I'm learning even more and more as I go.
Right. So EC asks, shares, thank you for this Zoom. It's great. I am planning my first trip to Italy next summer for my 50th birthday. Any thoughts on where to go as a rookie? We will be there about 10 days. And we've similarly received a lot of questions about, what are your favorite places to go and what are the must see?
Oh gosh. Well, there are 180 issues on them. There's so many places. So I was actually interviewed last week and someone said, if you only had one trip to Italy and you only had to see one thing, that's a really hard question, but I thought about it. And I thought, Venice is so striking when you see it in person because I'm getting chills saying this. It's not like it's like my number one favorite place that I go to all the time or, it's Venice. You've always wanted to see Venice. It does not disappoint. So I really think Venice. I think, it's hard not to do a trip that's Venice, Florence, Rome, because they're so different and they each offer something, and to see the Colosseum. I suggest, trying to do something. One of the travel tips is see Italy from a new perspective. So one thing I did is I'm in a Vespa. I took a Vespa tour of Rome. God, what are the names? I think it's the Pinoli. I can't think of the names of those really big trees right near the Colosseum. And I was in this little Vespa sidecar and I looked up and I have never seen Rome like this. I took a boat. It was in the beginning, on the Arno, they have these old boats they've restored. And to go under the Ponte Vecchio was incredible. So think about okay, I'm going to the usual places, but maybe I could do something a little different. And, I started this publication 19 years ago. There were not all these specialty things. Like this wonderful woman, Kelly Medford, does a painting tour in Rome. You look, and that's what you have to do. In Italy, you can try things, even if you don't really know how to do it. And I'm actually getting emotional, even thinking that it's your first trip. I don't think it will be your last. I also say, do you have any personal connections to Italy? Obviously, my family, and it changed my whole life. Do you have a relative who fought in the war, or do you, do you love art history? Do you make jewelry and you want to go to Venice? So think about your personal interests and tailor it around that.
Fantastic. What is your favorite Italian region for food and wine?
For food and wine, and I don't think I'm allowed to pick favorites. So I always feel like there's some police, but Piemonte. Holy cow. That's where the big B's are, the Barolo, Barbaresco, truffles, Gianduccia, which is the hazelnut chocolate. Torino is one of my favorite cities in the world, in Italy. If there was no Florence, Venice, Rome, Torino, some of the most amazing food I've ever had in my life. The vineyards are incredible. There is an episode we did on Piedmont and Lake Iseo, actually, but I go truffle hunting. And we have guides. If you come, or if you email me, Kathy@dreamofitaly.com, we actually have guides to each season. You can do like 90% of what I've done on the show. My other great passion is dogs, and I went truffle hunting, and it was like, I've done it 2 or 3 times. It's like the best thing ever. The olive groves, all of the food and wine is great all over Italy, but Piedmont is like you're really getting into it.
The truffle hunting sounds so fun.
I
So
know.
another question that we've gotten a couple times is, do you have any tips for learning the language, and do you have suggestions on Italian language schools in Italy?
Well, I'm still working on mine. I should have taken Italian at Georgetown because I still remember the French better. It's not like if I'm in France, it comes back, the younger you learn it. But there's so many apps. There's so many ways to have it right on your phone. And we offer, if you pledge to PBS, you'll get 3 months of Rosetta Stone. That's my Italian speaking dog. He's here. My TV editor is eating lunch and my dog is blind and he's like, there's somebody with food here. So learning Italian, there's all kinds of great YouTube videos. Sometimes I'll have them on while I'm working just to hear Italian, watching movies. You can go to Italy. This is a great way to visit Italy, especially if you're on your own. Enroll in one of these, enroll in like a 2-week class. You'll meet other people, you'll have activities, you'll have some structure to your day. And this varies, but even if you are older, you can probably get a student visa, which would allow you to live in Italy. If you're enrolled in an accredited place, you can actually work 20 hours per week. So it depends on the consulate, if you're a student, it may be easier to get the visa. But if you're truly going to learn, like I had this lawyer in the show tell me, I use Italian for my job. I could get a student visa with no problem. And you actually can work part-time while you're there. So that's just a tip. Again, there's all kinds of legal yes, no, but it's an idea. And I think if you're going on your own, which I think people should do, don't wait, or for someone to go with, that's a great way to like get involved in the community. Thanks, Chuck.
Fantastic.
He wants your food.
Okay, so speaking again of food, Miguel asks, Italians are notorious for only eating Italian food. I love Italy and would love to open a Mexican food spot in a place like Bologna. Are modern Italians open to that kind of thing now?
Well, it's interesting. They are creatures of habit, too. But there's so many foreigners now living in Italy. When I first went 26 years ago, you didn't see very many, but there's people from Africa, people from Eastern Europe, Filipinos. And Bologna has a lot of students, so they might be more open to that. I'm sure it would do well in Rome or Florence. But I could maybe hook you up with some of my expat friends or people that are on the ground there and see what they think. I think it would be wonderful if it's, sometimes some of the ethnic food isn't, well, some of it's really good, but I don't even know if I've ever had Mexican in Italy.
So our questions from the audience seem to be tapering off, but I do have one. It's a bit niche from Scott, who asks, he and his wife are ballroom dancers, and do you know anything about how to find ballroom dance rounds or tea dancing inItaly? Anything like the fabulous swing convention and workshop?
I have
each June.
What am I? I feel like I know some of them. One of my best friends who lives in Italy is a tango dancer, and she has met so many people traveling around the world doing tango. I assume there is also a community, that you can look online, and I feel like there is somebody I know who does ballroom, but I think you can probably find it online. But, what's so funny about the show is one of our elements is movement, and that Italians move. They move when they walk to do their errands. They're doing gardening, and they dance, and they have celebrations. So it's funny. It actually comes back to this special that Italians are always moving and doing something. And so dance is a great way to get that into your life. So I'm sure you can find something online.
Okay, great. And Dory asks, do many people travel alone to Italy, or are they mostly couples and families? And
a lot of people do. And I don't think as a woman you should be afraid of traveling alone. I know many people who do. I've done it, but of course it's my work. I have a lot of friends who, Frances Mays wrote Under the Tuscan Sun. She's become a friend. She's in this special. She was in a previous special. She says she always sees women traveling to Italy and that often they're on a quest, right, to find something more so than men, but men go on a quest as well. So you do see single women traveling. I mentioned Cortona because it's a nice mix. There's a lot of expats that I know a number of women who traveled to Italy on their own, went to Cortona and end up going for a couple months here and there. It's certainly not the only place to go, but I'm thinking of all the people that I've seen. There are, and I can help you if you email me. I know some small group tours if you wanted to join some other people, but I think it's perfectly a wonderful thing to do, and it's hard to get bored in Italy. I mean, even if you go to dinner by yourself, just watching people is extraordinary.
Okay, here's a fun one. What are items that one should buy in Italy versus getting back home? Leather goods, glass items, clothing. What do you think?
So the world has changed, right? Because you go to TJ Maxx, although I haven't been in like a year, that you can find all these things that you couldn't find before. You 25 years ago when you went, you bought the paper. Well, the paper I still don't see here, paper, leather, and things like that. So I think artisans who are not, who are on the street, who are in these little shops, who aren't necessarily shipping to the US. I think that olive oil, like if you find when you know the story of a place, it's amazing. So look, there's a lot of things that you could get here or shipped here, but I think it's the story of your journey. If you see a little piece of art that will remind you of the place that you went. I think some of the clothes, I mean, you still can't get these amazing. You can go to some markets and get some cute, even at some vegetable market. And then I've bought beautiful sweaters, like longs, beautiful like, I don't know if they were cashmere really, but they weren't cashmere, for 20 euros. I've bought like really chic pieces in the street market for like 20 bucks. So I think it's like what you come across. And then there's a tip. I don't know how many of you, I love driving in Italy. It's not for everybody, but I love it. There's auto grills, the rest stops where you can have like a full meal, but they have a whole shopping section and you can buy like seasonings, pasta, like all these little food items you don't buy them at the airport. They're 3 times as much, but like little gifts. I've bought little gifts to bring home. So I think it's whatever might mean a lot to you.
So fun. And I love that you said art. I always try to pick up a piece on my travels.
Yes. Yeah.
So Teddy asks, how is the healthcare system for someone who is interested in moving to Italy?
So it actually really depends where you live. And Tuscany is really well known for excellent healthcare. In the South, it's a little hit and miss. If you're enrolled in the national healthcare, you sometimes have to wait. If you need a surgery or if you want an incredible surgeon, you might go up to Milan. And so, but it's amazing. You'll have surgery and you won't pay anything. So it is kind of regionally based, and you get a doctor and you kind of select through. Most of the people I interviewed had an excellent experience with healthcare in Italy, but it does depend sort of where you live.
Kathy, do you have any closing thoughts for the audience before we wrap up?
Well, if you'd like to find the special when it's airing in your market, you can come to dreamofitaly.com/TTT. We're also doing a huge sweepstakes, which includes a stay at a resort in Tuscany. So, and like a year of pasta from Gicecco and like all kinds of stuff for your Italian dreams. So you can put your email in there. And we have lots of resources if you're ready to go. The magazine, the podcast, it's all dreamofitaly.com or Dream of Italy on social media.
Fantastic. Kathy, thank you so much. This has been such a fun way to
It's always fun for me.
Yes, it's getting me really excited for summer vacation. But so thank
Yes.
you so much for taking the time to share your expertise and this sneak peek of your PBS special with our alumni community. And thank you all for joining us today. Please look out for our follow-up email, which will include more information on Kathy's special and Dream of Italy, as well as our upcoming programs. Hoya Saxa, and have a great day.
Thanks.